We all know the old saying, be the change you want to see in the world. My parents were far from perfect. I grew up with an abusive, neglectful father, so obviously growing up in my household, children didn't have a voice that was valued. And I developed this feeling very early on that I was worthless and I'd never be able to make a difference in the world. I always wanted to have kids of my own one day, maybe to make up for some of those feelings and create a space for a kid that maybe I wasn't necessarily afforded growing up. But as a single gay guy who doesn't make much money and is not getting any younger, the odds aren't exactly in my favor in regards to having kids. So I decided that the way that I was gonna be the change I wanna see was to go into teaching. Now, working with kids is a challenging but rewarding field. Financially, it's more challenging than it is rewarding. But I went into it kind of making up rules as I went along because I wasn't really taught how to behave growing up. I basically did the opposite of what I saw as a kid. And some of my self-imposed rules were a little easier to follow than others. For example, stay calm and try not to swear. Those came to me so much more easily than things like don't show favoritism. Because if we can be honest, some kids are just way cooler than others. But as rewarding as the job was, there's always this hole in my heart that's never gonna be completely filled. I'll always have that image in my head of what my perfect son or daughter would be like. And every now and then at school, a kid comes along that embodies that type of personality, that magic, that spark inside of them, and they will take your heart and run away with it. And this is what my principal would eventually refer to as my fake children. When my student teaching semester ended, I was devastated. I just made all these emotional connections with these families, and this mom came up to me on my last day, and she said, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but is there any way you'd consider babysitting for us sometime? My kid misses you so much already. And her words came to me like a lifeline when I needed it the most. I started babysitting for these guys, and I fell in love with this family. Their youngest kid was 4 years old, and I could not comprehend how a 4-year-old kid could be so funny and sarcastic and dry. And I had him in my class a few years later, and I was amazed at the depth of character. I saw his strengths and his weaknesses socially, academically, emotionally. This kid was terrible at math, and he would shut down emotionally as soon as things got too difficult for him. And his mom said that he would kind of lash out at home and be kind of mean because of this. And I had a difficult time accepting that because I didn't see it in class. And this is my fake son that we're talking about. I am not raising a jerk. So the years pass, and by the time he's in 5th grade, he's having a really rough time. He was actually failing math, and he was feeling really small at school. And his mom told me he actually tried to run away one morning. And as she told me this, I started to tear up. The idea of a kid with such a big heart who was so smart and so funny, losing his spark, just killed me. If that goes away, will it ever come back? And if it does, how long is it gonna take? I asked her if there was anything that I could do. I offered to tutor for free, and she said, if you see him in school, just say hi and try to make him feel as welcome as possible. His birthday was coming up the following week. And so I asked her if it would be okay for me to treat him to lunch. And she said, that would be so big. It would make such a huge difference for him. Yes, please. So I took him out, and I saw the first smile on his face in literally weeks. And it went so well that I decided this was gonna be our annual tradition. And a few years later, he's 13 years old, and it was the day before my birthday. And first thing in the morning, he comes barreling into my classroom. He's huffing and puffing out of breath. And he says, I wanted to be the first person to wish you a happy birthday. And I wanted to know if I could treat you to lunch. And I said, I will go to lunch with you, but you're not paying. I called his mom, and I thanked her for such a kind gesture. And she said that it wasn't her idea, and that it wasn't even her money. She said that he came to her the night before and asked if he could dip into his bar mitzvah money because he wanted to treat his favorite teacher to lunch for his birthday. And at that point, I was so proud of what a good job I had done raising my fake son. The idea of a 13-year-old kid being that selfless and that generous can't be overstated. And at this moment, I realized I was doing what I set out to do. I might not ever have kids of my own, but I was being the change that I wanted to see in the world. Now, maybe it was my self-imposed rules about staying calm and trying not to swear. I don't know. But for the record, he is graduating from high school next year, and he's doing really well in math. He's turned into one of the greatest young adults you could ever meet. I thought back recently about something his mother said to me the first time I took him out to lunch. She said, be careful what you say. He's really jealous of some of your other fake children. That's when I realized that I had fallen short on one of my self-imposed rules. Don't show favoritism. But what are you gonna do? No parent is perfect, not even a fake father.
SoulPancake.